argument is that we are somehow aligned to the People's National Party. But remember, as you correctly outlined, the People's National Party made those same accusations several years ago that we were JLP aligned. And it will happen in a very partisan society such as Jamaica. But we just have to be minded of our mandate, stand firm in our purpose as an organization, be accountable, as though we're demanding accountability, which is why, for example, last week we did our annual general meeting. We ensured that our annual report and our audited financials were widely disseminated. Every year they're shared, but this year we went through great pains to ensure that the public can go on our social media platform and they can see how we're funded. And you will realize, Conrad, that the source of our funds are the same that fund the government of Jamaica, such as the European Union. And we don't take money from political parties or individuals who have political connections, if you will.
Indeed, Executive Director Mikhail Jackson of JFJ. Now, you may mention that, it's par for the course where political parties or actors will make accusations from time to time. But, I am called the fireman, and I take the name on with a particular mantra. So I am not afraid to go to the heart of the matter. Mikhail, has there ever been in Jamaica a time when the human rights group is attacked directly by the government as high as a deputy prime minister in this way that we have been seeing coming from a Dr. Chang?
From conversations that I've had with like Dr. Caroline Gomes and Carol Narcisse, who have been around and supporting JFJ, there have been attacks by different government actors. But as a society grow and learn and be stronger as a democracy, the recent attacks have certainly increased more. If you remember, not just from the Deputy Prime Minister, and remember, while not in the Constitution as a title, this is the person who will stand in for the head of government. So when these comments are made, when the head of government were blue last year, somehow to stand in solidarity with law enforcement, as the Prime Minister should. But remember, the context within the Prime Minister were that blue suit last year. It would push and pit the human rights groups against the police, and that's not what you want. The organization being labeled as a terrorist organization and those types of utterances. I want to put in context as well for the listeners, Conrad. When these kinds of conversations and labeling, unfairly so, unjustly so, are done, it means that if it is that the extreme of death threats are not made, which I have personally been subject to the rape threats and so on social media, we have also gotten unsavory calls to the organization where the team members have been afraid, and we've had to go into the limited funds that we have. So when we're doing community interventions, we have to be hiring private security.
Wow.
For example, that is the effect of the Deputy Prime Minister and other political actors making the utterances. And you can say to JFJ, I don't agree with the statement. This is the difference of opinion that we have. JFJ, bring your evidence, but you don't use words like blood money. You don't say we're seeking relevance. You don't make comments that would equate to the dog whistling. Because once a comment is made, the lashing out on social media by those who are politically aligned then happens. And I think political actors, especially cabinet members, have to be careful with the utterances that they make while they provide reasonable criticisms, because we're not beyond critique as a human rights organization. I want to make that very clear.
Indeed. Mikhail, even more recent, I think as recent as last week, the Minister of National Security, again, because he seems to be the attack dog, the point man out there against human rights group, in particular JFJ. He talked about this whole business of bodyworn camera, which to me it's such a low-hanging fruit that should be afforded to our police officer that would be able to insulate themselves from certain criticism, as well as basically serve as evidence for the general public. Talk to us about this latest utterance about the body-worn camera as it relates to the latest attack on JFJ and other human rights group from Dr. Chang.
You know, I when speaking to the public, Conrad, if you will, my response is less responding to Dr. Chang and more so being guided by evidence and the need for the body cameras. Let me start by saying that I make reference to a September 28 interview that the police commissioner himself had on a national broadcast radio. Where when the interviewers asked the question, Commissioner Dr. Blake, would you be minded for a portion of the 1,000 body cameras that were procured to be deployed to planned operations? The police commissioner responded, absolutely. So to me, the fact that the police commissioner is so minded is a good indication, but we also need policy directive from the Ministry of National Security and from the cabinet headed by the Prime Minister, which is why JFJ is calling for us to move from the protocol that currently governs body-worn cameras to now moving towards the legislation to govern body-worn cameras. And we already see some elements of that with the Zones of Special Operations Act. Why am I putting that in context? When we push our parliament to act, then we now can move beyond this conversation about discretionary utilization. Certainly, based on the operation and so on, that a police commissioner and his high command is confronted with, you would determine on a case-by-case basis if body-worn cameras are important then. But the legislative framework would say body-worn cameras should be utilized as long as it's safe to do so for the officers, as long as you're not putting witnesses at harm and so on, you should be utilizing it. And that is where JJ wants to go. In also adding to context, Conrad, I want the public to look at certain things. Last year, we ended with 311 fatal shootings. Jamaica recorded 2 instances of over 300 fatal shootings. In 1984, we had 354 people killed at the hands of the state. In 2010, we had 307. But remember, the Tivoli Gardens incursion would have increased that number even more. Some 70-odd people killed separate from that 307. Now, Indicom was established as a result of JFJ's advocacy contributing towards that in 2010. So when you have 311 people killed last year, and you look at the last time we had those figures, we should be alarmed, not only because the number itself is alarmingly high, but the circumstances surrounding these numbers. You have the Jamaica Parkinson, where we saw the video of the CCTV camera being pulled in Bogwalk, same CCTV camera, seemingly compliant, and then you hear gunshots. To JFJ to say, listen, the police came at the police entered the house, asked the girlfriend to take the child or children out, and then a few moments later, gunshots are heard. So when you hear those accounts between the law enforcement and the citizens, and the fact that the planned operations account for 50% of the fatalities, then I don't think it is unreasonable for JFJ and Indicom to be calling for body-worn cameras to be deployed. So I think, Conrad, to close out my comment to your question, we must be guided by evidence, and we must be guided by our context that far too many fatalities are coming from planned operation. And JFJ, we are resolute in that. And as a result, we're launching a policy paper on May 27 at 10 a.m. And I hope you will be in attendance. And because we can't host everybody in person, it will also be live streamed.
What remind us of the date?
May 27.
May 27.
So the report we'll be talking about, this thing about red light turning on, putting risk, we will dismantle that. The research that no other country utilize body-worn cameras in high-risk situation, we will dismantle that. Again, we're guided by evidence at JFJ.
Indeed. So, Executive Director, when you look at all of these comments coming through, attacks on your organization, are you daunted? Are you fearful? What's the lay of the land?
We are not daunted. We stand in our mission and our purpose as an organization. I dare say when the attacks are made, personally, I'm more spirited in doing the work that I've been called to do. So the more people attack is the more I work hard as the head of the organization. So when the pushback come about body-worn cameras, we get work and we do the research because we know the information, but I said it to the team, put the paper together so the public can know. When people criticize us, we get to work even harder. So if it is that the intention was to shut us up, I tell you, our mouths will become even louder.
All right, good.